have a soft landing, soft arrival. So this'll be short, but a nice way to come into presence. So I'll invite you to get into a comfortable position. And you can allow your eyes to close softly, or you can have a downward gaze, whatever works for you. And bringing your attention into the body, right down to where the body is connecting to what you're resting on. Feeling the weight of you grounded downwards. Feeling the sense of gravity holding you here. So feeling grounded, but also feeling that sense of uplift through the back, neck, head. Shoulders melting down, relaxed. And you might want to sense into your face and allow the muscles in the face to soften, especially around the eyes. Chin slightly tucked to feel the length in the back of the neck. And then just noticing in general how the body is right now. Perhaps noticing that the body moves very subtly as you breathe. Sensing the expansion of the in-breath, the softening of the out-breath. And you might feel a sense of the body being refreshed as you breathe in. And then relaxing, releasing more and more deeply on each out-breath as best you can. Breathing in, breathing out. Perhaps welcoming yourself here to this moment. And sensing back into the body, into your posture. And then when you're ready, you can take your attention outwards to the room that you're in. Raising your gaze when you're ready. So again, welcome. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Siri Chandler, and I'm tuning in from Paknam Pran, Prambury. It's a little village on the Gulf of Thailand. And yeah, Ben and I are always very, very happy to share these webinars with you, to share what really connects with us, and we hope it will be of benefit. Today's session it's called Starting Fresh with New Purpose, How Intentions Shape New Beginnings. So how intentions shape new beginnings. So obviously it's the end of the year and we're about to launch into 2026. So it's a really good time to pause and reflect on what's important. Time to perhaps tap into a vision that can help us move forward with a sense of purpose, maybe have more energy and direction as we move forward. Because often many people I know, we get really busy, we get hurried, we get exhausted, that we forget to pause and we forget to check in with what matters, that we go through the days, months, years, and we're on this autopilot mode and it becomes kind of numbing. So yeah, we'll speak today about the importance of intention and purpose, but most importantly, will offer you the opportunity to do some practices so you can gain more clarity on what deeply matters to you and what your own unique vision is for the future. Meditation teacher and author Jack Kornfield, he said, "Be mindful of intention. Intention is the seed that creates our future." So we're gonna kind of be planting seeds today, so to speak. And guidelines for these 2 hours. Please take care. You can have your video on or off. What is being recorded, well, it won't show your face at all. Having video on is nice because it kind of gives a sense of community that human beings are here, but you're in choice. If you need to take a break at all during these 2 hours, if you need to move, feel free to do so. Restroom, feel free to do so. And know that all the practices are invitational. So if you don't want to do a practice, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, give yourself what you need during these next 2 hours.
Thanks, Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah, and welcome everyone. My name is Ben Weinstein. I'm also, like Siri, a certified teacher of mindful self-compassion, and I'm speaking to you from Bangkok, Thailand, where I also work as a clinical psychologist. And I thank Siri for that wonderful arrival practice and that great quote. And we appreciate many of you have already, we see a good mix of people who are already practicing self-compassion, and we know from the registration, but that not everyone is familiar with self-compassion because, you know, as a practice of mindfulness, being aware of our intention is a very powerful way to guide action. And Siri is going to talk about that and guide some practice with that of forming intentions. That, and like the quote from Jack Kornfield, planting seeds. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to water those seeds in daily life. This sense of starting fresh. And what does it mean to allow ourselves to start fresh? Because I want to share with you as we begin one of the things that I think about mindfulness and self-compassion, which is that for people who are able to practice mindfulness and self-compassion, they're actually practices of liberation. They're practices that make us more free. They give us more freedom. What does that mean? Freedom from what? Well, by virtue of being human. By virtue of being human, we have this enormous tendency to kind of get stuck in our own story worlds. And usually this story about I'm a person like this, I'm a person like that. And these stories have been shaped very deeply by our past. The experiences we had, the conditions that we've faced, and the ways we've survived. And very frequently, that conditioning is something that when we try to start fresh, it arises in our minds. Oh, well, this is what happened last year. This is what happened last week. I'm not going to be able, or this is the kind of person I am, full stop. I can't ever be a different kind of person is the implication. And these are not individual characteristics. This is part of how our brain works, our heart works, our mind works. And so when we cultivate the characteristics of self-compassion, mindfulness of the present moment, awareness of common humanity, and this kind of tender and firm self-kindness, those can actually help to liberate us. And that's the piece that I'm going to talk about, how we can water the seeds of our intention every day without being bound up by our pasts. And I'm going to talk about that and guide a practice so that we can be with that. But first, we'd like to do a little bit of a review about what is self-compassion. What is this stuff that we're talking about, especially since we knew for some people may not have thought about this for a long time, and some people I think are completely new. So let's spend a few minutes to do a refresher on what self-compassion is.
Okay, so this brief refresher. Again, as Ben just mentioned, the mindful self-compassion, it can be a foundational support as we move towards what matters to us. So I'll touch in on what MSC is and how it relates to today's topic. And I'll share my screen. Go. Whoops. Oh, what just happened? I lost it.
It's all right.
Oh, no.
Take a breath. It's all good.
Try again. Maybe it has some, oh my gosh.
It's okay, sir. You can start fresh.
Can you see this? What is self-compassion?
We do.
Perfect. Okay, so here we have Kristin Neff. She is one of the co-founders of Mindful Self-Compassion. She's an author, researcher in compassion. And she says that 3 things need to be present for self-compassion to arise. There's the mindfulness, present moment awareness. We need to know that we're having a difficulty in order to have a compassionate response. So we need to be aware. And also mindfulness, it helps us see clearly the truth of the moment so that we can create intentions grounded in reality, aligned with possibilities. Common humanity. We're all human. We are all prone to making mistakes, sometimes having failures in our life. We are not uniquely flawed. So there's actually something empowering in that, knowing that we all mess up at times. That's okay. And then self-kindness. Treating yourself like you would treat a good friend. So often when we mess up, we have this harsh inner critic telling us things, for example, oh, you idiot, you're stupid, you can't do this, you're not good enough. So what self-kindness does is it brings in a compassionate voice or a supportive, encouraging voice, a voice you would offer to a good friend when things are difficult. And so you can offer your self-kindness by way of kinder words. They might be a fierce, courageous kindness. You can offer yourself compassion by way of touch, felt sense, many different ways. And to relate this to this topic, I'm going to stop my share. Okay, back. I wanted to use a simple map analogy to weave those 3 elements of self-compassion into today's topic about direction and purpose. And we'll compare intention to navigating a map. And I'm going to use an ancient physical map. You can imagine that you're in the olden days and there's no taxis or anything. And let's say that my intention where I want to go, I know I want to go to the Grand Palace, right? But before I set off to the Grand Palace, I need to know where I am, right? To have direction. So it's like, okay, want to go to the Grand Palace. I can't set off until I know, oh, I'm in, the corner of Lumpini Park. And then once I know where I am, then I can start heading off in the direction that I want to go in. And as I travel towards what I'm wanting to direct myself to, I might take a wrong turn, go down the wrong street. I might get lost. And when that happens, instead of just saying, I quit, I don't want to do this anymore, I can't do this. Instead of doing that, just pausing, recognizing, oh, I'm human. Sometimes humans take wrong turns, we get distracted. Pause, redirect, head back out. With self-kindness, you might actually, ask for some help. Up to you. We all do it in our different ways. But when we bring these three elements into our life, a radical shift happens in how we respond to challenges. Ben, do you want to?
You bet. Yeah, so I'm gonna, and in a moment, Siri's gonna teach some more about intentions and purposes in guided practice, but I wanna talk a little bit about an additional element of self-compassion that really challenges the way that many of us think about what self-compassion means, because we have this expectation that self-compassion should be something soft, something tender. And in fact it is, but that's only part of the picture. So, in fact, we believe and we can operate in a way that understands that there's a wise balance of self-compassion, a kind of yin and yang, if you will, tender and firm. The tender side is soft, nurturing, and comforting, and the firm side is firm, protecting, or motivating. But again, think about the way, as Siri already said, that what we would give to a dear friend in the same situation that we're in. So this tender side of self-compassion is our ability to be aware when we're suffering and to respond to our own difficulty the way we would respond to and support a good friend, that we have the ability to nurture and comfort ourselves. This is what most of us think that self-compassion is. And it's something incredibly useful to deal with our inner critic, to deal with times when we're down, feeling lost, feeling despair, feeling super stressed. This is something that helps to change people's lives, liberate ourselves from our inner critics. But there's another side, which is this fiercer, or I prefer firm self-compassion. And basically, firm self-compassion is the energy to act to reduce suffering. So for example, we might use energy every time we provide for ourselves, we act to meet our own needs. That requires a certain kind of firmness. Even when we take energy to comfort ourselves, or if we decide that we need to cope by doing something that feels good to us, we're taking action. So that's actually a bit of the firmness of this kind of yang side of self-compassion. Sometimes we may feel that we need to protect ourselves, so we might act to protect ourselves. In the same way that in certain situations, if a friend told us about a situation, we would encourage our friend to leave that situation, or we would encourage our friend to set boundaries in that situation, but we don't always do that for ourselves. So the protective action of self-compassion was when I take action to protect myself. And lastly, of course, in what we're going to focus on today is the ability in firm self-compassion to motivate ourselves, to act, to engage with what's important to me. Then in ways, because all three of these things, when I act to meet my own needs, when I act to protect myself, or when I act to engage with what's important to me, these are ways of reducing my own suffering and improving my well-being. That's why we say that this is this yang side of self-compassion, this firm, form of self-compassion. So sometimes self-compassion takes a form of tenderness and soothing, and sometimes self-compassion takes this sense of kind of straightening our back and saying, okay, buddy, you can do this. And that's also a form of self-compassion. So let's start unfolding and doing some practices to see what this looks like.
So intentions. Intentions are deep, heartfelt wishes. They remind us what we deeply care about. Intentions give us direction and purpose, a sense of purpose. And a sense of purpose, it really arises when you feel that your life is oriented towards something that matters to you, often beyond you. And having a vision is key because it sets the stage for what's possible. And a vision is like that seed that we spoke about. It requires you to be honest and gives you clarity. It lights the path for you. And when you nurture your vision, when you tend to it, it allows things to come into being. So just for example, athletes, they often visualize their game. They replay in their mind what they want to achieve. And Michael Phelps, for example, you know, the swimmer, gold medalist. So he speaks about this a lot. And almost every night he visualizes himself either being very, doing his best while he's swimming, but also he visualizes himself messing up and how he would respond with wisdom. Carrie Walsh Jennings, she's the Olympic gold medalist in beach volleyball. She's had lots of gold medals. And then even after she had kids, she knew she still had a passion for her game, that she said, I wonder if I can be the best I can be, but also not sacrifice having a family. And sure enough, she worked with visualization, this deep passion she had for her family and her sport. And she's not only a great role model for her kids, but for parents. And then I think of one of my aunties. She turned 50 and her kids had left home, and she always had this dream, this passion to be of service for others. And so after age 50, she started learning how more about psychology, became a therapist, and she has done so much good work for PTSD, post-traumatic stress, in soldiers. So yeah, it was that vision, that deep wish that needed to arise for things to happen. So I'll offer a practice now that can realign you with what matters most in your life. And you're going to have the opportunity to envision how you would love your life to turn out this coming year, maybe beyond this coming year. So we're going to explore what it would be like to open to the vastness of possibilities that truly exist within each of us. The truth, as Ben has mentioned, is that we're constantly changing. We're constantly in a state of flux. This is natural. Neuroplasticity is a fact. So we have so much potential for greater well-being. And we can take responsibility to set our motivation in a direction that we find meaningful. So what I'll do is we'll first start with a settling practice to gain more clarity in the mind and the body. And then I'll ask a set of questions. It's very important to not try to intellectually or conceptually find the right answers to the questions, but instead use the questions as a way to connect more deeply with the heart. See what bubbles up. You might be surprised. Keep it simple, keep it easeful. I've done this practice so many times, and sometimes I'll find that I go up into my head and I start getting philosophical or judgmental. I don't like that word. And when I notice I'm in my head and it's really crowded up there, I pause, I bring my awareness down to the heart area. And you might, if you try this out, you might discover something surprising. For myself, what bubbles up is maybe sometimes images or a felt sense. Other people, it's more wordy, each to their own. There's like no one right answer. Here we have about 40 people, so there's going to be 40 unique visions that arise, 40 unique possibilities. So basically what we're doing is we're making ourselves aware of our own vision, our own flourishing, and how might that come about. You won't need to share this with anyone, so that can be comforting knowing that. The meditation, it does use visualization. So if visualization is difficult for you, be easy with yourself, see what comes up, use your own style, be playful. I'll offer the practice and then I'll offer time for you to write, to journal afterwards. Okay. And if for any reason you feel uneasy during this practice, feel free to take your attention elsewhere and go have a cup of tea, offer yourself the care that you need. Okay. So let's launch in. And for this practice, you can offer it to yourself seated, or you can stand, or you can lay down, up to you. Getting comfortable. And as you settle into your position, your posture, letting the eyes gently close. They can be closed partially or fully. Feeling the body connecting to what you're resting on. Feeling into the movements of the breath. Or if the breath is uncomfortable, you might like to move your attention to sounds. Noticing them coming and going. Just taking a few moments to settle. Now we'll shift our attention to the more creative aspect of the mind. And as best you can, using your imagination, bring to mind a unique vision and a wish towards happiness and well-being. So asking yourself, what do I wish for this coming year? What is my heart's desire? How do I envision my inner fulfillment? Just resting with these questions for a while. What do I wish for this coming year? Seeing if anything bubbles up from deep within. Seeing or sensing what it would be like to have yourself being truly well and happy. And if a vision comes to mind of your own happiness and well-being, having the heartfelt wish, may I realize this happiness and well-being. And then we'll move to the next set of questions. So from moment to moment, each one of us is always changing. We're in a constant state of flux. And given this fact, ask yourself, how would I love to transform? What qualities would I love to be free of? And what qualities or attitudes would I love to strengthen and grow? Might be qualities like courage, compassion, gratitude. What would I love to be free of, and what would I love to strengthen and grow? Envisioning the changes you would love to experience in your evolution as a human. Being curious about what arises. And with a spirit of kindness, sending yourself enthusiasm, inner strength, and the commitment needed to actualize these inner values, these qualities. Picturing yourself realizing this type of transformation and growth. And now, knowing that we each exist in an ongoing relationship with the world around us, whatever we think, say, or do has an impact on society and the environment. So, acknowledging this reality of interconnectedness, asking the question, what would I love to offer to the world? What would I love to offer to the world? How can I make my life meaningful so that when I look back upon my life at the very end, I can look back without regrets and have a sense of satisfaction that this was a life well spent? And now gently releasing your imagination and resting in simply being aware of the body. Noticing your posture, feeling the weight of you grounded. Perhaps offering yourself an inner smile. Feeling into the space around you. And whenever you're ready, you can raise your gaze. I'll offer time for you to write or journal if you wish. Writing down if there was anything meaningful that arose. Know that if nothing came up for you, offering yourself compassion for that. This is being recorded, so you can go back and do that practice again. And I'll share in the chat some of those questions that were asked. And know that this takes time, and over time, your intentions will probably shift. You'll maybe tweak them here and there. And again, this practice is basically about bringing into your awareness what matters.
Thanks, Siri. That's really such a valuable practice. And of course, to spend some time and to really that image you shared with us earlier, this idea of planting seeds, imagining a person's intention as a seed they plant in their own consciousness. That intention is the seed form of action. This is so powerful. Now we want to talk about how do we water these seeds in daily life and grow them into the tender seedlings, the shoots and leaves of real action. But before we do that, Siri and I would like to take a moment to make a quick, forgive us, a quick advertisement. Because as Siri and I have mentioned to you, we're both teachers of mindful self-compassion, the 10-week course where we offer these practices and more. And Siri and I think it's okay for me to speak for Siri, or Siri, feel free to jump in. We love teaching this course. Siri and I get as much from teaching this course as the participants do from taking it. And I want to share with you exactly how that is. I want to share with you some of the reflections that participants have shared with us about the course. Here's one participant's reflection. This was a participant from Singapore in the end of 2024. The MSC journey was a transformative journey. The course helped me connect deeply with myself and understand my needs better. It also empowered me to challenge my inner critic and embrace difficult emotions instead of suppressing them. I highly recommend this course to anyone seeking greater self-awareness and inner peace. Again, I feel that if part of my life has been spent helping someone to challenge their inner critic and embrace difficult emotions instead of suppressing them, that actually brings a little bit of tears to my eyes, because it's so amazing to be able to help people transform like that. There's another one I'd like to share. This is from a participant just shared this week on LinkedIn, a participant in our most recent course. This training showed me that self-love isn't something you arrive at, it's something you practice on the days you feel least deserving of it. It's something you practice on the days you feel least deserving of it. That compassion isn't weak or passive, it's brave enough to stay present. That firm, she wrote, this course didn't give me answers, it gave me a way of being. I I I don't that leaves me speechless. But if you're interested, the course is 10 weeks. Over those 10 weeks, we teach 24 skill practices. The sessions are 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 50 minutes, 2.5 hours. You get 2 expert teachers, and it's life-changing. And Siri and I are so honored, and what we'd love is that we know that at least half, if not more of you, have already taken the course. But if you know anyone you think could benefit, please let them know, because our next course registration is open now, and the course is going to begin on January the 12th. Right, Ceres? Siri, do you want to add anything about how you feel about teaching the course?
No, you did a great job. Thanks, Ben.
Okay. Yeah, so this is this is something that it's just such it's such it's so nourishing to be a teacher of that course and to see, for me especially, because what I do with a lot of my life is I do therapy. I'm a therapist and I help guide people through their suffering and to make the changes that they want to make in their own lives. And I see how, and after 25 years of doing this work with individuals, with couples, with groups, I see the enormous fruits that can come from that and also the challenges that people encounter. And one of the things I find that this course acts like an accelerant to transformation. As Siri says, and this is very important, we're always changing, we're changing every day, we're making some things stronger, we're nourishing some things, we're maybe not, or weakening other things in ourselves. And this course is an accelerant for people's positive changes and increasing their well-being. If you're interested, check it out on the website. If you know someone you'd like to give them that gift, please do that. Registration is open now. And we're very proud of the fact that we offer 25% of the spots in each course to local heroes in their own communities as scholarships, so that Siri and I are always supporting accessibility for people to be able to take the course. I even think we have a few participants in the webinar today who are people who have benefited from scholarships in the course, and it's something we're very proud of. Okay, carrying on. Thank you for allowing me to make a quick advertisement. And now I'm gonna come back to the topic that we're talking about. Series just helped us kind of get in touch with some of our intentions in different areas, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what stops us. If we're so free, as these two are saying. Ben and Siri are saying you change every day. You're changing all the time. Well, what the heck? I'm still the same person I was yesterday and last week and last year and 10 years ago. Or are you? And this is hard because, and I'll be honest with you, I remember what I was like. So I'm 58. And I certainly have that feeling like, oh, I'm the same guy I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but I also know that I'm not. But I feel, and I remember how fresh and energetic I felt when I was 30 years old. I was like, I can do anything. I can take on the whole world. And now, 30 years later, I see the way that certain parts of my identity have gotten stiffer, if you will, have gotten less flexible, have accumulated through this conditioning, because I can see the process of conditioning and experience accumulating in my own mind, because that's what the brain does. There's no delete button in the brain. There's no recycle bin. There's no trash can in the brain where you throw out your old experiences. Our old experiences stay with us. The conditioning that we've experienced in one form or another has the potential to stay with us all the time. Not because you're broken, not because there's anything wrong with you, but because you are human. And this is one of the challenges we face in being human, especially as we get older and we accumulate experience. And I don't know about you, and if you'd like to share in the chat what you feel keeps you from changing in yourself. What I want to invite people to just share in the chat. What is it you feel within yourself that keeps you from changing? What is it you feel within yourself that keeps you from starting fresh? Today's a new day. I'm going to be different today. What is it inside of you? Because I'm going to Elena, too old. Libby saying, it's easier to stay in my comfort zone. What is it for other people? Fear. Yeah. Allowing setbacks to overwhelm me, right? self-sabotage, thinking patterns, right? Yeah, the ways we perceive things, which are habits, the characteristic ways we perceive things, looking for acceptance, being a people pleaser, okay? Doubts. What if, what if, what if, right? Absolutely. I really resonate with easier to stay in my comfort zone. I was thinking about this as I prepared to teach about this, and I'm a real, people who know me know that I'm a real creature of habit. I have certain things I do on certain days, and it's like really difficult for me to change. I'm like, no, no, this is what I do on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, I go to the office, right? On Wednesdays, I do this, right? On Thursdays, I do that. I mean, and I feel the discomfort of saying like, no, no, let's shake it up. On Tuesdays, I'm not going to do that. Okay, and excuses. All right. Well, let me tell you what I think some of the things are psychologically. I think all of these things. Just going to share my screen real quick because I think that you all have already. I think I think that these 6 characteristics are the things that really psychologically, internally, I'm not talking about it externally, that get us in the way of our changing. And it's number 1, it's a kind of all or nothing thinking. If I haven't changed, if I haven't successfully changed everything, then it's nothing. And this all or nothing thinking, it doesn't allow us to be human and make mistakes. And we know this, and I know this comes from the research about how people successfully change or how star athletes perform. And Siri was already giving you some examples that people who successfully change understand that it is a step-by-step process, and some of the steps are backwards. But if we have rigid expectations, and we know this, for example, about people who aren't successfully able to change themselves or their behavior. They're people who, when they make a mistake, they tell themselves, if I made a mistake, it means I can never do it, so I give up, because it feels so bad to feel I can never do it, right? Psychologists call this the abstinence violation effect. But basically, it's all or nothing thinking. Like somebody on a diet who's trying to keep a certain kind of diet, and then one day they broke their diet and they tell themselves, well, if I broke my diet, I can never do it, right? Which brings us to number 2, which is self-criticism. The ways that some of us may have an inner critic who runs ourself down. And for some people, depending on the conditions that we have experienced in the past, the ways in which our mind has been shaped and conditioned, shame may also be a part of that. The shame that doesn't just say I did something wrong, like self-criticism, but that says I am wrong, I'm bad, I'm unlovable, I'm worthless. So especially these forms of toxic shame. Some people may be afraid, maybe, and I'm not going to differentiate these different fears. Some people are afraid of failure. Some people are afraid of success, or other different fears. Fear that other people won't like me if I do that. So there's many different kinds of fear, and fear is very powerful in our bodies and our minds. Sometimes we lose ourselves because we're so focused on the past, or we're so focused on the future, versus being in the present moment and what's possible in the present moment. We have a kind of human attachment to the past or the future. And lastly, many of us are not in the habit of empowering ourselves. We're not in the habit of doing what Michael Phelps does, that Siri described to us, right? Think about how Michael Phelps described what he does. He visualizes performing at his best, and he visualizes making mistakes and how he's going to respond when he makes a mistake. Actually, this is true of any high performance athlete. They don't, your high performance, it doesn't matter if it's a cricket player or a rugby player or an American football player or a football player or whatever, baseball, every single athlete that you can imagine, they have a way to deal with mistakes because they know they can't eliminate mistakes or setbacks. So they have a way of and we're going to learn a little bit about how that works because they try not to be rigid. If a cricket player says, I messed that up, so I'm a failure, I can never play cricket well, that's not a person who will become a high-performing athlete. But so they empower themselves on a regular basis. And in fact, you already know how to do it. If you have a friend who encounters a setback, likely you say to your friend something like, that's natural, that's all right, you can still do it. You empower your friend when they face difficulty, but we don't always have the habit of empowering ourselves. So what I'd like to offer now is an alternative way of looking at these things that will enable us to start fresh. And the alternative looks something like this. It means really accepting that beginning anew, starting over again, is human nature. And it's actually one of the most important things that we can do, that everything worth doing in life needs to be renewed over and over. If I want to be a less anxious person, if I want to be more courageous, if I want to be a kinder person, if I want to succeed doing things that are difficult for me, if I want to be better in my relationships, everything worth doing needs to be renewed over and over because we will always make mistakes. We will always lapse, not because we're uniquely bad, because we are human. It is human to get lost. And that's why we need a map, the map of our own intentions, our own purpose. And that the truth is that every day, maybe even every moment, is another opportunity to start fresh. So this is a different way of looking at it. What if each hour or each morning is genuinely a new opportunity to start fresh, but our minds keep us constrained? And remember that starting fresh doesn't mean that I will suddenly become a completely different person. Starting fresh means I get to face this moment according to my intention. Think of Siri's map analogy. And I'm going to use a similar analogy using Bangkok. I love that you used a Nancy Chandler map, Siri. I think that's classic, right? For people who don't know, that map was a map uh, conceived by and beautifully created by Siri's mom. That was a, and I myself as a backpacker in Bangkok in 1992 used one of those maps to get around. But think about it. If you want to get to the Grand Palace, as Siri said, you've got to know where you are. And if you're in Sukhumvit on the all the way on the other side of Bangkok, you don't expect that you'll get to the Grand Palace in 5 minutes. But you know, the Grand Palace is west of me, and if I keep going west, I'll get there. And maybe I'll walk, maybe I'll get in a tuk-tuk, maybe I'll get in a taxi or a bus. These are all different ways of moving toward the Grand Palace. But I don't expect that at the moment I decide I need to be at the Grand Palace, boom, I will get there. But sometimes we treat ourselves that way. We say, you know what? I want to be less of a people pleaser. I want to be less. So today, and then we say, and today I'm going to be less of a people pleaser. And we try and we fail. And then we say, well, nope, can't do it. And we give up. But that's those rigid expectations or self-criticism or fear. What we need to be able to do is to say, we need to be able to think about it like, you know, climbing Mount Everest or traveling. You go one step at a time. And if you keep taking one step at a time, every time you pause just becomes part of the journey. And if you went down a wrong track for a little while, you can turn around and retrace your steps. But starting fresh means committing to yourself. So what I want to offer you now, and you know what? I just realized, and I want to say something really important. I don't mean to suggest that this is easy. Being human has many wonderful things about it, and being human has many difficult things about it. This is, all of us know this. We have joys and we have sorrows. We have pleasure and we have pain. There is possibility, and we can live our lives in the ways that feel meaningful and satisfying to us and increase our well-being, but it sometimes requires some effort. Sometimes we have the energy for that effort, sometimes we don't. I don't mean to imply this is easy, but there's a way that the seeds that Siri has helped us to plant are seeds that we can water in our consciousness every day. And what I'd like to offer now is a practice to help us water those seeds, to help us be with and water those seeds. So this is a practice of starting fresh that you might like to do once a week. It's a practice of starting fresh that you might like to do once a day or whenever you need to. So, like Siri, I'm going to guide this as a meditative practice, and then I'm going to give you at the end a few moments for written reflection to write down. And don't worry, this practice is also available as a guided meditation on Insight Timer for those of you who might like to repeat it sometime. So please don't feel like you have to write it down while we're doing it or something like that. Please allow yourself to be present in the experience. Please find a comfortable position. It's probably going to be about somewhere between a 12 and 15-minute practice. Please allow yourself to be in a comfortable position. Allow your hands to be wonderfully empty. Our hands are always so full of our devices, full of different things. So allowing your hands to be wonderfully, wonderfully empty. Entering into this practice of renewal, of beginning anew. And in this practice, I want to highlight, we're going to use the energies of self-compassion. We're going to use the tender, nourishing, comforting, supportive yin energy of self-compassion. And we're going to also use the firm, determined, resolute energy of yang self-compassion. So let's just begin by arriving. Allowing your eyes to close gently, if that's what's right for you, or if you prefer having them open with a soft and unfocused gaze, and just beginning by taking a few breaths. In fact, you might like to take a moment to greet yourself, visualizing yourself sitting here in your mind's eye and saying hello to yourself with a smile, acknowledging yourself for taking the time and energy to participate in the webinar. Grounding yourself in the present moment by feeling your contact with the seat that is so kindly holding you here at this moment. Noticing any energy that's present for you right now. Scanning through your body, noticing any sensations, any emotions. Whatever you notice, seeing if you can just let it be like this, just for these few moments, these few breaths. And if you like now, inviting one or both of your hands to come up and make contact with your heart space or anywhere else that the touch of hands feels connected to you. Just taking a moment to feel this contact, the hand over your heart or wherever. And letting this contact affirm for you the person who feels the contact of this hand is a human being. A human being who does the best they can do day by day. A human being who isn't perfect and whose life isn't perfect. A human being who faces challenges. A human being who needs and deserves kindness, compassion, and strength, as all human beings do. A human being who has the right to start fresh, to start again, to begin anew as often as is needed. Perhaps forming an intention to allow yourself to start fresh, to be free wherever you are. Now you can let your hands rest gently at your side or anywhere that's comfortable. And I'd like you to bring into your mind the elements of your life or the situation that you'd like to approach with a fresh start. This might be something that you thought about in the visualizing intentions practice that Siri just guided. Where is that moment in your life where you need to start fresh? This might be a challenge you're facing, something you've been having difficulty with. It might be an old pattern of behavior you're trying to change. It might be something in how you relate to yourself or how you relate to other people. Maybe something in a specific relationship. Maybe there's something that's important to you and lately you've been feeling like you don't have the energy to engage with it. Just taking a moment to ask yourself, what is it you'd like to approach with a fresh start? And if a number of different things come up in your mind, give yourself permission to choose one to practice with at this moment. Later on, you can repeat this practice with something else if you like. Now, as you visualize this purpose, this thing that feels important, if any difficulty comes up, because each time you think of this, your history with this may arise in your mind and in your body. If any self-blame or criticism come up, any discouragement, seeing if you could meet that with some kindness. Perhaps even allowing yourself to stop doing this practice if it feels overwhelming to you. Could you meet your history or your fear or your doubts with self-compassion? Letting the tenderness side of self-compassion, recognizing that it's difficult to be human and to affirm that you are human, to see if you can support yourself like a friend with any difficulty coming up from your history, saying, yes, I do have a history. That's not my fault. This is just all part of being human. And perhaps adding in the firmness to stand for yourself, to feel yourself seated here and say, yes, this is right for me. I have the right. I have the right to begin again, to start fresh, to free myself from criticism or fear or shame. Just bringing a little bit of self-compassion to this present moment if your history is coming up. And now turning your attention to focus again on what you would like to approach with a fresh start and coming to feel your purpose. How would you like to approach this thing? What quality of action would you like to bring with this? What intention would you like to guide you? Recognizing that what we mostly control in life is our own action, our own speech, what we say or don't say, what we do or don't do. What quality of action, what intention, what purpose would you like to bring to this moment of your life? And if many qualities come up in your mind, qualities like courage or understanding, kindness, creativity, see if you can just choose one or two and formulate them into a wish. For example, in starting fresh at this moment, may I be guided by courage. Or in starting fresh, I'm determined to bring kindness. Or maybe something like, I wish to approach this challenge with determination and grit. Whatever words help capture and focus the energy of your intention. May I give myself permission to start again. So words that help make a promise to yourself, a promise that conveys your intention. And then when you feel ready, make one of your hands into a gentle fist and place that fist over your chest as a symbol of courageous intention, as a symbol of your power. Just taking a moment to feel that firm energy, the determination of this gesture. And then beginning to repeat your fresh start promise to yourself. Breathing in and out, one breath at a time. Repeating your promise, your wish, your intention, your purpose to yourself. With each breath, breathing in and out one time, repeating your intention to yourself one time. Remembering that you're not trying to be perfect. You're not saying you'll never make any mistakes or lapse or setback. You're just watering the seeds of your intention. You're giving yourself permission to live. If you like, as you continue to gently repeat your fresh start wish to yourself, maybe you could begin to imagine this wish, this promise as a kind of friend, even even visualizing the face of this friend. Because if your fresh start promise has a face, that face is smiling at you. Your promise is not frowning at you. It's not shanking a finger at you. Your fresh start promise believes in you because your fresh start promise knows the truth. The truth that anything that happened in the past, anything that happened last year or last week or last month or yesterday even, doesn't matter anymore, and it doesn't need to limit you. The past is unchangeable, but today and this present moment are open for possibility. And when you give yourself permission to be present and make a fresh start, you can be free. Free to take a little step right here, right now. If you like, you can invite your other hand to come up and wrap the fist as a sign of the caring. Wrapping the fist, holding the fist gently with your other hand and feeling the caring force of your fresh start promise. And now letting go of that and just taking a moment to rest quietly in your own body. Noticing any energy that's present for you, savoring any positive feelings, any positive energies. Let this practice be however it's been for you today. And recognizing that you can make a fresh start anytime you want. And that in order to be human, we need to begin anew. We need to start fresh over and over and over. Not because there's anything wrong with us, but because we are human. And then when you feel ready, gently becoming aware of your environment, Opening your eyes, perhaps taking a moment to stretch. And I'm gonna give about 3 minutes in silence now for you to make any notes, right? Any reflection. What's valuable for you in this? What would you like to carry forward? Okay, so that's a kind of practice that helps to water the seeds in daily life. So now we've been talking about how to plant a seed, how to water the seed, and Siri's going to talk with us about how to keep that seed, keep that seedling alive.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of our time together. And let's take a moment to silently reflect or write down, what most connected for you and how do you want to keep it alive? How do you want to keep this wish for yourself alive in this coming year? So maybe writing down intentions for the coming year that you have for yourself. As Ben had mentioned, when we bring these wishes, the sense of purpose into our life, it's not necessarily going to make it easier. Life might get a little bit harder, but you will be living a very fulfilling life. So what connected for you and how do you want to keep it alive in the coming year? And know that if anything is to have an impact on us, it's helpful to consistently remind ourselves about what that is. So thinking about how can you stay connected to these energies of your intentions? How to stay connected to the energies of your intentions. Some people like to write their intentions down, or that fresh start wish down, place it near the bed, a place that you see on a regular basis, maybe the bathroom mirror. And some ideas that people have had that we've kind of shared is you might like to have the intention to visualize yourself embodying your wishes, your intentions. Michael Gervais, he's a mental skills coach, and he encourages the people he works with just 5 minutes a day. But if you're doing that every day, um, what you practice grows stronger. And the visualizations, if you do it each day, it becomes more clear and more vivid. So those are a few ideas. In the chat, if you have some good tips on ways to remember, could you write them down? Because we learn a lot from each other. Keeping a daily journal. So having a spot to write your daily intention. Yeah. Coming back again and again. Thank you, Karen. Some people turn it into a ritual. They light a candle, reminding themselves. Hmm. Drawing out my words in color. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Sharing the intention with a trusted friend. Oh, that's a good one. Having a friend support you, checking in throughout the year. And Karen added also making it into art. Ten minutes of quiet guided meditation. Some people start their meditations with their wish, their intention every day, again, to come back to it again and again. Write it on a piece of paper, hanging it on the leaves of my house plant. Oh, so you see it every time you water it. Uh, I like how you're getting creative, Mayu. Thank you. Associate your intention with the people or objects around you so you get reminded of it every time. Thank you everyone for sharing sharing your voice on the chat, sharing your listening ear. In our courses, there's a lot of time to share with each other and out loud, but because this is being recorded, that's not happening now. But we will have time for question and answers very soon. But for now, we'll be closing the recording. Am I correct, Ben?
Right. We will do some Q&A, but we would just want to take a moment to thank everyone for participating in the webinar, and then we'll stop the recording.